Yeah, seeking is a program. It's machinery. Let us call it a separate track. Yeah. Then there's a non-seeker. It's also machinery. It's its own track. Sometimes you seek, sometimes you don't seek. Sometimes you seek for real and deeply and intensely, and sometimes you don't. Not interested. Of course, we're talking about what? Seeking what? What could you be seeking for? Right. There are a couple of problems with all of this. Right? It's like, who's seeking what? Who's the seeker? How has the seeker come to be? The seeker. Mm-hmm. And so for some people, it's an inner urge. It's a program that has a life of its own. It's a mental program. Sometimes it's seeking just to seek. It's not seeking anything it knows. So there are those you can ask in the process of their seeking. Why are you seeking? What are you seeking? I don't know. So there's an aspect of seeking that doesn't have any time to it. We could even go as far as saying it has no beginning and no end. So then what is seeking? Comment? So there are those with infinite knowledge and they're still seeking. So then seeking may have nothing to do with quantity. Years put in, years wasted, or used to explore one's capacity for knowing to what degree, to what point, see, to what result. Now, is that a property of the mental plane, in fact? Maybe a curiosity function at the mental level, right? Intellectual interest and so on. But it is machinery, because it can stop. Every night it stops. It doesn't exist. I think that's a deeper paradox for most people who think they are thinking. And are thinkers, right? So they are allowed to think and be thinking, because at night, out of necessity, they must stop. Cessation enters the picture. A gap comes in. It's called a deep sleep gap. We can also go as far as saying that everyone is designed to be a certain kind of seeker. And many seek, but they don't know what they're looking for, but they are convinced that when they find what it is, not knowing what it is, they'll stop seeking. And then there are those who in the heat of their seeking and the joy of seeking, right, because they're learning and they're tripping on it, I know and I found and I know and I found, then I'm going to go over here and learn and find some more. Ad infinitum, right? They wake up one day and it's not there anymore. It's just run out. And then they're troubled. They're stressed out. They can't get the seeking going anymore. They lose interest. And then they're afraid of falling into this soup of boredom. I'm not seeking anymore. I'm not searching. I'm not curious. I'm not interested. What's wrong with me? What's happened? Comment yet? So there's something wrong about seeking, and then there's something wrong about not seeking. Depends on who.
Is the question about seeking, is the curiosity about seeking in itself flawed and misguided?
No, of course not. The same applies to learning. There's nothing wrong with learning. Most people have to go through a process of learning to do anything or be anything. So it's normal. It's natural. But if we're talking about the Enlightenment principle, that's the question. What does seeking have to do with enlightenment? That's the question. Since enlightenment means end of searching. What's the function of searching relative to enlightenment? It would be easy to say that what continues after enlightenment is nothing. But so everything. So that enlightenment in itself, whatever it is as a paradox, is not a beginning, and it's not an end. Sorry. It's what is. And so then it's a matter of opening to what is to the fullest degree possible that determines whether or not enlightenment is anything real.
The desire, the felt need to work towards or to experience, to be enlightened or enlightenment is what?
It's elusive. It's gone. You have to keep that word in mind. Always keep that in one hand or the other. It's gone. What it is G-O-N-E. The earlier days, it was G-O-D. This is gone beyond G-O-D. Right? This is gone beyond God, so there's no G-O-D, or even gone. It's gone beyond itself. See? That's this elusive quality, this very spiritual quality, or even miraculous quality, that many teach as related to emptiness, see, pristineness. But it's not a thought. It's not a word, but it is what it is. So you're left on a slippery slope. But that's the nature of it. It's the nature of it. Because it's not necessarily connected with form. That's form. It's related to form as formlessness. But since it is what it is, even formlessness is not equal to what it is. And so that's why practice is necessary to get beyond and go deeper than your ordinary self-mind, right? The concrete mind, concrete self. It is what it is. But it's not equal to the body. As such. The body comes, goes. This does not come and go. It just is. So it leaves the ego wanting and begging. It makes an ego feel like a beggar. unfulfilled. Ah! Exactly. It's nowhere. Yet it is here. It's present. Without it, there'd be none of this. For some, it's called the essence of all arising, the heart of all arising. Fair? It's not bad. It's empty. But it's not exactly nothing. It's not exactly formless, but those words seem to offer you a clue. At least in terms of what it isn't, obviously. That's something you can just put in your pocket, although it is your pocket, and you putting it in there at the same time. And no pockets, no you also, same time.
Can you describe the shift that takes place at the moment of realization?
Well, that's supposed to be indescribable, so we can take pot shots at it. We're talking about a day and night shift in a certain way, but it's also seamless. For it to be what it is, there can't be a shift as such, but there appears to be a shift. Like waking up in the morning. We're talking about the continuity of consciousness. That speaks for itself. And then we go deeper, we say there's no shift, because there is a shift. Then it's the shift of no shift. It's very subtle. And that's what it is, a very subtle challenge. If it was that easy to grasp, we'd have a lot more enlightened beings who are happy, compassionate, and making life more pleasant for people. Beautiful, in fact.
The who that becomes enlightened and the who that does the enlightening, the who that is enlightenment, is there any distinction? Is there any...
Perceptually there may be a distinction, but it's all the same thing. In other words, the Buddha is the Buddha is the Buddha. Awakeness is awakeness is awakeness. Names, aspects, qualities, differentiation, playful, but not real. Isness. It is. Just like that. Pow. Right in the kisser. Take it or leave it. Wake up. Good morning. Smell the coffee. Have a sip. Get to work. Take a rest. Be happy. Pay your bills. Give thanks. Respect all beings. Love life. Give your heart. Play good music. Dance, sing. Enjoy your life.
So the ego is part of beingness. It is. It
No,
is.
ego's a word. Right, it's a concept. It's a program, right, which is done and undone. It's a form. It shows up and it can be dissolved. It can disappear. So it appears to disappear. No more, no less. Some would say it's an assumption. It's an attitude. It's a mask. It's a tension. Could be laughter. Yeah. Could be everything bright and right and wrong and song. In any case, it's a limitation program. Yeah. And it doesn't exist. That's the best part of it. See, it's gone. It's not real. It's just a program. Something that people cling to, something people take on and put off. Take off, put it away, know when to use it, and know when not to be used by it. So that has a lot more to do with identification than actual being. Kind of like saying who you have to be under certain conditions, or show up as or act like under certain conditions. Fair, nice, it's good, sweet, perfect, in fact. In other words, you don't have to suffer your ego, or anyone else's for that matter. But we bounce off of these intensities of self-contraction that people assume are who they are or who they need to be at any point. And so they put it on you, tell you, pass through it, not take it personally. Just let it fall away. So what?
Certain spiritual schools talk about increased levels of awareness and increased different access to certain past life experiences, for example, certain advantages in terms of capacity.
That's part of our present mix. Past life karma, future life karma, all of that is being worked off here in the present time. You're creating your future karma because you're experiencing your past karma, and it's called present karma. But when we become conscious of the technicality of what that is, then we can make sure that what comes through, that we validate from the view of self-consciousness, right? Or psychic consciousness, mental consciousness, or emotional consciousness. We make sure that that's what is desirable. That means clear. See, in terms of not obstructing the path ahead, but clearing the path ahead. See, making what the mission is and the function is of this lifetime, this incarnation, more accessible and doable.
And that type of capacity, I think, is in particular something that is often an egoic interest. To say, I have access to such and such planes, or I was such and such.
It's easier
being.
when you say that everyone has access if they surrender to what it is. That means you have to open. Closed-mindedness doesn't access the big mind. You got a big mind? Yeah, you can go. You got a little mind? Stay over there. Sit over there. Open mind. Yeah. Receptivity. Openness. Vulnerability to what it is. Access it.
The language of Dharma seems always to lead back to nowhere. And it seems here to lead there very quickly. From anywhere. From any topic to nowhere. Straight line. And in my experience, that is a demonstration of clarity, of thought, clarity of being. It's the least contrived description of existence I've ever run into. The least subjective. And while it allows for everything, it allows for nothing. And there's nothing to get stuck on. That seems to be the habit of practitioners, is to just get stuck on things. That seems cool. But here, it doesn't seem that things to get stuck on are freely given. It's more of a removal of impediments and of...
it's purification. You're talking about a process of purification. And that's what you experience here because of your curiosity and your interest. So your openness to what it is. So, and that proves my point. Those who are open can receive accordingly. In the old school, they would say, if you ask, you receive. It may be true under certain conditions, but not under all conditions. A lot of people asking, they can't receive because they're not open enough to receive. Yeah. And then when they receive what they ask for, they're not sure they want it. They're not sure how to use it. See? And that's true of a lot of knowledge. People receive, they ask for, they get it, but they can't use it beyond the point because they're not open enough to manage the appropriate approach to such knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is not like a mid dish for the subway, crowded subway, during rush hour, and picking and choosing what you can get out of it. That might be better than nothing, but it may be worse, see, than having any knowledge. See, depends on how you process it. See, and what you reduce the knowledge to. And how you use the knowledge to open your intelligence, expand it, rather than settle it, or concretize it, seal the deal, so to speak. So, I know this, I'm done. It's good. That's enough, I just got it. I got it. I know now.
One of the things that you've said very consistently from day one through now is you don't know what you're talking about, or who knows? And that makes more and more sense as I spend more time here and have more exposure, because that is the key. That is seemingly the opening. That is the sort of...
It's the intelligence of not knowing. It's not the ignorance of not knowing.
Yeah. That's what seems to move things, create clearance. It's not more stuff that moves stuff.
Well, it's also a matter of not being concerned about knowing. There's no clinging to knowing. It's called breathing it in and breathing it out. So, being is breathing it in and breathing it out. See? Realizing is breathing it in and breathing it out. Enlightenment is in, enlightenment is out. It's gone. Desirelessness is the key to the kingdom. Desirelessness is the path of the Buddha. Yeah. And similarly, but differently, loving compassion is the path of the Christ. Forgiveness, letting go, holding on to nothing, basically. That's an extreme concept, but you have to have the intelligence to know how to use that. Not be used by the word. But in the wisdom of the process of intelligence and knowing, without knowing. How to be in the world but not of it.
It seems paradoxical that the desire for enlightenment exists. I mean, it seems important, but it also leads in both
It
directions.
seems to exist, yeah. Like enlightenment, they both seem to exist. What of it?
I think without the desire for enlightenment, it seems like there might be a risk of
No way.
receding.
No way. No way. Enlightenment is not a product. It's a process of letting go, letting be. Breathing into, seeing into, hearing into, feeling into, smelling into, touching into, hearing into, hearing, to gone. Already. So it's not really a formula that if you don't desire, you lose. Well, if you don't desire, you gain. Razor's edge. You have to stop being concerned. For or against. For and against. Whatever it might be. Just stop. Boom. And since you're absolutely unconscious, maybe 1/4 of the time of your life, stopness is built in. It's a profound gap. And we're that in this very moment, even while we're animated in the body, talking about the Dhamma and what it is and what it isn't, or could be. It's already gone. And because it's already gone, we can live, and we do what we do, right? And live great lives, and have enlightenment like that, and have a smile to prove it. Right?